We go now with Marco Manca. Marco is online. Thank you very much, Marco. Can you proceed with your presentation? Thank you. And introduce yourself, Marco, if you can.
Yes, so can you see the screen first?
Yes, we're listening you.
Okay. I'm a medical doctor by education, and I'm here as the president of Scimpulse Foundation. Do you see my slides or not? I see a strange image on the screen that I'm sharing with you. Sorry, let me give it a shot again. Okay. So today I will be talking about One Health, the missing link, and I will try to share with you some lessons learned from a previous experience that shares a lot with the ethos of the One Health initiative, and this is health in all policies. Health in all policies has been an approach to public policy making that was aimed at systematically including health impact in every decisions, trying to harmonize the tensions of all the other domains of human policy making, aiming to maximize always the health and well-being of populations. This has had a very long history, although today it has almost disappeared from the public discourse. And it was born, we can trace its origin in the far 1978. I will not bother you with all the history, but the last time it was officially included in a policy document, it was in a PAHO document from 2014. And later on, it has also been disappearing from literature, from scientific literature. So how did this fail? And why did this fail, right? It's despite how engaging the concept of health in all policies would have been, and I would like to stress here that even though I declared its roots date back to 1978, you can hear echoes of Rudolf Virchow, who is universally considered the father of modern medicine and modern pathology in its idea that everything about the environment around humans should be constantly investigated through the lens of the impact it has on human health. And the reason why this failed is not a simple one. But we can clearly declare it failed after the COVID pandemics has demonstrated that clearly not every policy, at least in the Western world, had been embracing health as a priority. I will explain the reason in detail, and in the meantime, I want to share with you that the community behind health in all policies.
Just to organize yourself, you only have 6-7 minutes left. Just so if you can organize yourself, because I'm sorry, I know it's very difficult. Your concepts are very deep and wise, but just to organize yourself, because I don't want to cut at the end very extremely. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. You have 6-7 minutes only left.
What do you mean by organize myself? I mean, I'm following my...
Yeah, but we have been told that we have to leave the room at 6:05.
Okay, I have to be super short. Okay, I will be extremely fast. So, the community behind health in all policies has tried to reshape the concept in a way that could serve the One Health initiative, the One Health ethos, by rebranding the idea as health for all policies, with the idea that instead of thinking how to co-opt other policymakers into serving health. They would like to use the health-allied professionals and all the conversation around health in policymaking through the lens of what health can be when it becomes an enabler for other policies. Now, the reasons why health in all policies failed, and we always will risk this also for One Health initiatives, is that policymaking is rarely a rational and linear process. It works through discussions, sometimes inaction as a meaning in policymaking itself. A lot of decisions have been taken and never been enacted, so they don't really count as policymaking. And the reason for this is that sometimes we lack assessments and feedback loops. So WHO has organized an health equity monitor already in 2016, but it's not super efficient, and most of us have no idea how to gather information from there. And despite the huge progress of digital ethnographies, as instance in Europe, we have the terrific community behind the Edge Riders that are super active in both methodological research and applied research on digital ethnographies to the service of public policymaking. We are not leveraging the ability of collective intelligence to give us feedbacks about what happens at the edges of our system, and we tend constantly to concentrate our policymaking discourses around sort of linear models, very simplified models of our reality. I've absolutely loved the presentations that were happening before mine, where they also embraced citizen science in order to gather information and measure the reality around them. This is extremely important. We need to leverage digital tools in order to make even narrative evidences from the reality count. And then there's an issue. We tend to be a frog in a well when we think about policymaking. So it's very easy to imagine that you are acting for good when you are promoting something, but the harsh truth of policymaking is perfectly captured by, as instance, the health policy fight against the tobacco industry, where health policymakers are trying to promote a clear message. Smoking cigarettes and tobacco in general is terrible for your health. But on the other hand, the cigarette manufacturers are advertising concepts of personal freedom, self-determination, free market. And you can hear echoes of these in the fights about obligations to get vaccines for public health, no? And we had these discussions for the past 3 years constantly about the prevalence of the individuals or the society. So forcing a resolution to these conflicts sometimes can also become terrible, and European energy crisis during the Ukrainian crisis has been a terrific example of this. For the good, we didn't listen to a lot of other domains of policymaking, and we decided to proceed with a certain international economic politics, and the end result was an energy crisis in Europe that had slowed down our ability to even engage with the problem we had. This is because we tend to think in one dimensions, and most of all, it's extremely difficult to capture multidimensional and second and third order effects of what we do. A problem that is typically well known to ecology, but that doesn't really translate perfectly well in policymaking, where unfortunately simple slogans tend to prevail on well-reasoned arguments. And the problem is that we cannot easily transform a well-reasoned argument in a winning slogan. I mean, even though One Health is fantastic, and I loved health in all policies before, and many people were on that boat before. These slogans tend then to fail when being translated into a reality. So tools that can be interesting abound on the web, and also about these, I love the Simon Wardley's value chain maturity mapping tools. There's an entire digital ecosystem of toolkits to apply this system to try to figure out what values we are identifying that we think we share, how they are produced in our communities, and then to use these to engage with other different communities and try to see what change would look like according to our different policy making, so that we can improve our stuff. And then, of course, there's a lot of European tools. I love to remind all of us that education for the next generation, even though the climate change is already happening, is extremely important. And we could use opportunities like this meeting to try to come together and make our own proposal for the future. So I've been rushing a bit, but I hope I've been in time. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I know it's very difficult, and we appreciate. And all of you, meanwhile, we're inviting to talk Marco Núñez Moctezuma and Gabriela Fernandez. Marco is online. Before that, all of you start to think in a question. Okay? Our co-chair has asked why it's so difficult, not to Uriel, to have the preparedness of governments with the right people. But also you are experiencing both of you, maybe you in the future, but Frederic already, how difficult it is to maintain and make these tools sustainable from a private point of view. So citizens should know that if there's a new pandemic, the government is not ready and you are not ready. No? And big companies don't see that as a business. So here we have a catch-22. No? So think what could we do to explain people and governments why we should be prepared.